Chapter 2 Ecology. So under ecology we have 5 subtopic, 2.1, 2.2 until 2.5. So we gonna have a look on 2.1 first, which is the ecosystem concept. Okay, so later on I will explain to you what is the definition for ecology and what is the definition for ecosystem. Okay, so under 2.1, we have 3 learning outcome. The first one, you need to define ecosystem. The second one, we want to know about 2 examples of ecosystem in Malaysia specifically. The first one, lake ecosystem, and the second one is terrestrial ecosystem. For the lake ecosystem, we will like to focus on zonation. Means that how many zone can we divide for the lake ecosystem, and then on what criteria actually we divide the zone in lake ecosystem. So for 2.1b learning outcome, the first criteria would be light penetration. So the zone would be 40 and A40 zone. The second criteria to divide zone in lake ecosystem, which is based on distance from shore and water depth. So we have 2 zone, littoral and limnatic zone. For the learning outcome C, which is describe terrestrial ecosystem, we don't want to focus on zone in tropical rainforest. We want to focus on stratification. In other words, layers. Okay. So for rainforest, tropical rainforest specifically, we have 5 layers, starting from the highest level or highest layer, which is emergent, going down canopy, going down understory, going down shrub, and the last layer, which is ground layer or forest floor. Okay, let's move first to the first learning outcome. Oh, before that, we're gonna have look at the life hierarchical order. So actually, from simple to complex, from simple we started with gene, okay, and then going up, we have organelle. We already learned about this during semester 1, and then cell, semester 1, 2, and then tissue, organ, and then organism. So for organism, if we look to the right for the arrow, it refers to biodiversity. So this one is chapter 1, which you just finished learn about it last week. Okay, and then going up after organism, we have population, and then community, and then ecosystem, biome, and biosphere. Okay, so ecosystem here, so which is ecosystem included inside ecology. So ecology is our second chapter, and then under ecology you need to learn about ecosystem. Okay, you don't need to know the definition for all these terminologies, but for ecosystem and ecology, I would say yes, you need to understand. Okay, okay, let's move on to the next slide. Okay, so ecosystem refer to interaction between living components and non-living components or non-living environment, or we would say that interaction between biotic and abiotic. If we refer to ecology, ecology means that study about interaction between biotic and abiotic. So if we group these two terminologies together, which is ecosystem ecology, we will end up with the definition: study of the interaction of organism with each other, number 1, and another one, study of interaction between organism and their environment. Okay, so means that study interaction between biotic and biotic and biotic and abiotic. Okay, so itu dia punya Definition kalau kita satukanlah ekosistem dan ekologi. Okay, so below we have examples of biotic component. Usually we generalize the component which is plants, animals. And then for abiotic component, we have temperature, water, sunlight, wind, rocks and soil and so on. For the classes, which is hydrosphere, atmosphere, lithosphere, I would say for the atmosphere, you need to understand. But for the hydrosphere and lithosphere, just read through. Okay. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Okay, for lake ecosystem, we can divide lake ecosystem into zone or communities of plants and animal. And then abiotic factor in a lake ecosystem including sum of light, type of substrate and habitat. For the second point, you just read through, okay? But you need to take into consideration for the third point, which is lake zonation is based on the first one criteria, how we divide the lake into different zones, which is based on light penetration. So is it the light can pass through all the way to the bottom of the lake or not? So if the light can pass through all the way down, okay, and we can see clearly what's inside the water, so I would say 40 zone. And then if there is no or insufficient light passing through all the way to the bottom of the lake, we call the zone as a A40 zone. Okay, so kalau dekat bawah ni kamu boleh tengok lah. So from here to here, so we have 40 zone, means that light can penetrate. And then for A40 zone, light cannot penetrate or light is insufficient. Okay, and then for the second criteria, how we divide the lake into different zones, which is we look at the distance from the shore and water depth. Okay, shore ni maksudnya tepi tasik lah. Okay, pesisir tasik or we call gigi tasik. Okay, so shore dekat sini. So dekat sini pun ada shore. Okay, so if the region is close to the shore or near to the shore, we call the region as a littoral zone. Okay, near to the shore, yang dekat dengan darat lah atau tanah. Okay, but if the region is far away from the shore, which is open water, open surface water, we call as a limnatic zone. Okay, so here we have 40 littoral and limnatic zone. Okay, before this, 2 years back, actually we put another zone which is we call as a benthic zone. Okay, which is dekat sini lah benthic zone. Tapi I would say dia dah out of syllabus, so if you find it in any notes, you may read through. Okay, okay, let's move on. Okay, we have a look first based on light penetration. So we have 40 zone. So 40 zone is a shallow water region. And then 40 zone is the upper layer where light is sufficient for photosynthesis. Okay, disebabkan 40 zone ni adalah kawasan yang cahaya boleh pass through. So bila ada cahaya, dengan kata lain, if there is producer in that zone, so dia akan gunakan cahaya tu untuk buat photosynthesis. Okay, that's why dia kata kat sini light is sufficient for photosynthesis. So means that 40 zone ni mesti ada banyak producer lah. Okay, and then the second point, 40 zone, dominant organism are floating algae, small arthropods and carnivorous animal. Okay, and then other such as plankton, we have two. If plant, we call as a phytoplankton. If it's animal, we call as a zooplankton. And then for 40 zone, we divide into two subzones, which is littoral dengan limnatic. So if we can zoom it upper right here, so 40 zone is here, means that if you look at the region, it has light which is sufficient for photosynthesis, and inside the photic zone actually we divide into two subzone, which is littoral and limnatic. So littoral zone which is near to the shore, limnatic zone which is far away from the shore. Okay, but both region which is littoral and limnatic has light which is sufficient for photosynthesis. Okay, that is photic zone based on light penetration. Let's move on to the second zone based on light penetration. We have aphotic or profunda zone, which is this zone is a lower layer that receive little or insufficient light for photosynthesis. Okay, so disebabkan dia kawasan yang bawah, bila tidak ada cahaya, okay, which is light is little or insufficient for photosynthesis, means that we will say that this zone doesn't have producer. Okay, sebab producer memerlukan light untuk buat photosynthesis, but this zone is not. So kalau tidak ada producer dekat kawasan tersebut, apa je yang ada dekat kawasan aphotic zone? So look at the third point, detritus sink through this zone to bottom sediment. Okay, detritus ni refer kepada debris ataupun waste, tapi bukannya daripada sampah yang orang buang dalam tasik and so on. Okay, debris ni refer kepada, let's say tepi-tepi pokok, tepi-tepi tasik tu ada pokok yang ditanam, and then katakanlah daun, okay, daun pokok tu dia jadi green dulu, and then after several time, after quite sometimes dia akan senescence, okay, and then dia akan jatuh dekat atas tasik, and then bila dia jatuh tu kita dah panggil daun yang layu tu sebagai detritus lah, which is debris ataupun waste. So dia akan, lepas dia jatuh atas surface of lake, dia akan jatuh ke bawah sampai sediment, okay, dasar tasik lah. So disebabkan kawasan tu tidak ada cahaya, so energy source for organism is dead organic matter ataupun detritus. Detritus tadi refer pada, let's say daun yang dah mati atau layu tadi. Dead organic matter, katakanlah apa-apa hidupan, okay, mati, okay, contohnya ada ikan dalam tasik tu, so mati, so dia dijadikan energy source lah for other organism, okay. Okay, disebabkan banyak kawasan ni tidak ada cahaya dan dia punya energy source datang daripada dead organic matter and detritus, so kita akan jumpa various kinds of decomposer or detritivore, fish and invertebrates which will consume this dead organic matter. The second point, saya lupa nak cakap, aphotic zone is a deeper water zone where light does not penetrate, okay. So light cannot penetrate all the way to the bottom of the lake. Okay, let's move on. And under aphotic zone juga, this zone does not exist in shallow water. Okay, so kenapa tidak dijumpai aphotic zone ni dekat kawasan air yang cetek? Cetek tu mungkin sampai, kalau kamu masuk dalam air tu mungkin sampai lutut saja, for example, okay. Because for shallow water, sunlight can reach all the way to the bottom of the lake. That's why untuk shallow water, we doesn't have aphotic zone. Okay, probably we just have photic zone, which is we divide into two subzone, littoral and limnatic. Okay. The second criteria how we divide the lake into different zone, based on distance from shore and water depth. Okay, kalau yang dekat dengan shore ataupun darat, kita panggil littoral zone. Tapi kalau dia jauh daripada shore ataupun darat, kita panggil limnatic zone. Okay, let's have a look at the first zone under distance from shore and water depth. So we have littoral zone. Refer to region of lake that has shallow water which is close to the shore. Water is well lit. Okay, maksudnya kawasan littoral ni dia punya air tu diterangi cahaya lah, well lit. Unless kita tanam too much trees dekat tepi tasik tu, mungkinlah dia akan tertutup sedikit. Tapi generally dia well lit. Okay. And then sunlight can penetrate to the bottom. Diversity is greatest at this zone, which is we call littoral zone as the most productive zone because rate of photosynthesis is high. Okay. So disebabkan dia kawasan yang dekat dengan darat, dia still ada kawasan yang dalam air tersebut boleh sustain rooted aquatic plant. Okay. So nanti kita tengok lah. So disebabkan boleh banyak plants yang ditanam di kawasan littoral zone ni, that's why kita refer plant pada producer lah. So bila producer boleh buat photosynthesis dengan banyak, okay, so kita boleh kata kawasan ni the most productive zone. Okay, so daripada producer lah, the first consumer akan makan producer, and then second consumer will eat the first consumer, and so on. Okay, all started with producer. Okay, shallow parts contain various rooted aquatic plant. So ada 3 jenis rooted aquatic plant, emerge, submerge and floating. Kita akan tengok next. And then we have free floating duckweed, water lily, animals such as frogs or crustacean, and insect larvae. So for the role of aquatic plants in littoral zone, they will produce oxygen, providing food and shelter for insects, crustaceans, frogs, turtles and fish. Okay, so this we'll focus on littoral zone first. So this one is terrestrial plants, but actually terrestrial plant dia tak sepatutnya ada dalam water lah. Okay, dia on land actually. Tapi untuk tunjuk perbezaan sedikit, saya letak jugalah terrestrial plant dekat situ lah. Okay, and then we have emerge plant. So for emerge plant, actually half or most of the body of the plant is immersed inside water. Okay, so ni emerge plant. But for submerged plant, the whole body of plant actually is inside water. Okay, and then for the floating plants, actually they are only on the surface of water. Itu perbezaan dia lah. Okay, and then we have fish, and then other arthropods and so on. Okay, move on. So these are examples of organism that exist in littoral zone, which is zone that near to the shore. So we have duckweed. So duckweed actually yang ni lah. Okay, not this one. This one is frog. Okay, and then we have water lettuce, which is the floating plants. Means that dia punya root is not attached to the base of the water. And then we have water lily, which is floating plants too. And then we have insect larvae, probably maybe mosquito larvae. And then we have phytoplankton, which is the green one. And for the middle, I would say this is zooplankton, but I'm not quite sure for the species name. And then we have krill. Krill, it looks like prawn, but it is smaller in size and usually it's clear. Okay, the body is clear. Usually we can see through if it's inside water. Okay, and then we also have another type of zooplankton, and then we have Daphnia species, or common name we call as kutu air. And then we have water strider. Okay, just on the surface of lake. Okay, settle for the littoral zone, which is based on distance from shore. We going on to the second zone based on distance from shore and water depth. So we have Limnatic Zone. So for Limnatic Zone, the region is entirely open surface water which is far away from the shore. Okay, kawasan dia terbuka sahaja, tidak tertutup sebab dia di tengah tasik kan. And then water is well lit, which is similar to the first zone under based on distance from shore, which is littoral zone. Water is well lit, tidak dihalang oleh apa-apa, so memang disimbahi cahaya lah. Okay, and then sufficient light penetration, but this zone is too deep to support rooted aquatic plant. Okay, so tidak jumpalah plants dekat kawasan limnatic ni sebab dia terlalu dalam. Okay, so bila terlalu dalam, plant dia nak ditanam dekat tanah yang terlalu dalam pun dia mungkin takkan hidup lah. Okay, and then examples of organism, we have phytoplankton, which is green algae, zooplankton, which is microscopic animals, means that you need to observe by using microscope, then you can see the animals. And then we have cyanobacteria and fish. And then for phytoplankton, function as a base of lakes food chain and producing oxygen. Okay, so phytoplankton dekat kawasan limnatic ni sebagai producer jugalah. Okay, kalau dekat kawasan littoral tadi, disebabkan kita ada banyak rooted aquatic plants, so dia boleh bertindak sebagai producer. But for limnatic zone, disebabkan dia too deep to support rooted aquatic plant, that's why phytoplankton will take the role as a producer in limnatic zone. Okay, so ni antara contoh spesies lah yang ada dekat limnatic zone. So kita ada zooplankton, Daphnia against, and then phytoplankton, and maybe we have freshwater jellyfish. Okay, okay, these are just a summary of what we have learned so far for lake ecosystem. Okay, for the compensation point and benthic zone, it just extra information to you. It's already out of syllabus, but I would suggest to just read through. Okay, that's all. Thank you.